Have you ever felt sad, disappointed, frustrated, or heartbroken? You're not alone. Our guest created a space and support group to connect over life's challenges. This safe space is called Heartbroken Anonymous. She's a TV host, co-host and producer of I Don't Get It podcast, entrepreneur, and seasoned producer who launched her career with the Ellen DeGeneres Show, the E Network. She went on to produce 5 seasons of ABC's number one primetime series, The Bachelor Franchise. Welcome to the show, Naz. How are you doing?
I'm so good, Toby. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
This is
so
I feel so blessed to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so delighted to be speaking with you. For the topic we're going to talk about, I'm so excited to learn so much from you, to know so much about it, and also reading about everything you've done so far. I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. This is amazing. So for me, it's also a blessing to have you right here, right now.
Thank you. So nice to hear. Thanks.
Thanks for connecting virtually all the way from LA. Yeah, and I want us to start with talking about you. I find it so amazing how your life journey and career journey has been so far. Working with Ellen DeGeneres to working with the E Network, Real, the Bachelor, Fandango, Rotten Tomatoes, and so on. Like so many wonderful, amazing things you've done. So can we just get to know who Nas is shortly? Can we get to know who you are and how your trailblazing journey has been so far?
Yeah, I'm someone who I went to college I graduated from college in 2012, and I wanted to go into television. And so I majored in broadcast journalism. And what I did is, I knew I wanted to be a host, but I went into producing first, and I love producing. And like you said, I started out as an intern or PA on the Ellen DeGeneres Show. From Ellen, I went to working at E in their True Hollywood Story department, which was this documentary series that was really big at the time, and in their live events department, which they live broadcast from all the big red carpets in LA, the Oscars, the Grammys, the SAGs.
Yeah.
And then I worked at E for 2 years, and then I got laid off, and I went to work on The Bachelor, which is a dating reality show. Mm-hmm. And for 2 years, I was producing and traveling around the world and learning how to talk and interview people about love and heartbreak. Mm-hmm. The Bachelor is a pretty big show here in the States.
Yes.
And I know there's a bunch of different franchises around the world too, which I think is so cool. But I've always been fascinated by love and how it motivates people to do certain things. And as someone who hadn't really had love, or had luck in love, I should say, myself, I loved working on The Bachelor. But after a certain point in 2017, I was like, I moved to LA to be a TV host. I really got to give this a shot. So I ended up leaving The Bachelor to pursue my dream of being a host on camera. Yeah. And I got a job with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is the baseball team here in LA. And from there, I worked at Fandango, which owns Rotten Tomatoes, who I still work for. And now, full circle, I'm doing on-camera stuff at E instead of producing at E, which has been a dream come true. Yes. In addition to hosting a podcast, just like you do, called I Don't Get It, with my friend who was on The Bachelor. I was her producer. Yeah. And in the middle of all that, somewhere along the line in 2016, I started a support group for people that are heartbroken called Heartbroken Anonymous. So currently, that's kind of all the balls I have in the air that I'm juggling, and that I love.
Yes, like I really admire everything that you do together. It makes your life fascinating and beautiful, I believe, right?
Sorry?
I mean, I admire the fact that you do all these wonderful things and beautiful things. It makes your life, fascinating and just, always bubbling, I believe.
Aw, thanks. I think at the end of the day, everybody's life is fascinating. I think as long as you just know that happiness comes from within, and that you can be happy, whatever it is you're doing. I feel very lucky that I really love connecting with people. Yeah. And so I feel very blessed and lucky that through my on-camera job, I'm able to connect with people, whether it is telling them about this really cool movie coming out and how you're going to feel after you leave the theater watching it, or connecting people who are heartbroken when it comes to Heartbroken Anonymous. And so yeah, I think everyone's life's fascinating as long as you're sharing your gifts and sharing love. And I feel very lucky that I get to do that in my work.
Yes, that's so beautiful. And while going through your work, I was like, wow, you are such an expert, like with producing different shows, different things. You know how to interview a lot of people. You've met with a lot of celebrities over there, and I'm like, you're going to speak with Toby today, and I'm like, I'm going to take some notes from you. Afterwards, you're going to give me some note and tell me, oh, Toby, this is how you interviewed me. It's supposed to be done like this. Give me some.
That's so funny.
Give me some LA or some international standard ways of interviewing people, basically. Yeah, I'm looking forward
You
to
know
that.
what's funny about you saying that is I think what I've learned here, I think in my career, I think it's always good to study people that come before you that you admire, but I think I learned the key is to actually really not try and just be like someone else, and to really actually go insular and own who you are and how you would ask a question. And so the way you interview is already perfect and amazing because of your upbringing and who you are and what you care about, and what questions come out of you naturally. And I think that's the key to being an awesome interviewer, is really just knowing yourself and asking a question that other people wouldn't ask because they're not you.
That's true. Yes, I love that. Yes, just be yourself and bring your personality into your work.
Yeah, but it sounds so cliche, and I remember coming up, people would always say, just be yourself, and I'm like, okay, but like I didn't really get it. And I think now in my 30s, I'm like, oh, why is it so hard to be myself? Why is it so hard to be Naz? And I think a lot of hosts will sit in a chair and it's like, you don't need to pretend to be Toby when you sit in your chair, but a lot of people pretend to be Toby or pretend to be Naz. And I have to often remind myself, just be Naz. You don't have to pretend to be yourself. You just be yourself. And that's kind of hard to do, actually. And it's kind of crazy that it's hard to do, but it is.
Yeah, that's true. You're very right. That's correct. Or just be yourself, and yes, just do your best, basically. I love that. But I would just love us to talk about the space that you've created, this safe space that you've created for those who are struggling and those who need connection or need people to relate to it when they are going through difficult situations, especially heartbreak. Like as I was saying before we started recording, for me, this was the first time ever hearing about it. When I was reading about it, I was like, wow. So I know about AA, I know about different kind of anonymous groups that you can go to, but for heartbreak, I was like surprised. So can you share more about Heartbroken Anonymous? What inspired you to start it?
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, because I was also shocked it didn't exist when I was wanting to start it. But Heartbroken Anonymous was born out of me leaving, working on The Bachelor, and being unemployed and wanting to date, wanting to find love. And also just, I had really equated my happiness with success. And so, especially here in the United States, so much of what people ask you, instead of like, who are you or what are your interests, is what do you do? And so for me, when I would tell people that I'm a producer on The Bachelor, people would be like, oh, that's so cool. So I remember having this moment where I left and I was like, oh, what am I now? Am I ever going to work on a big show like that? Are people going to think I'm cool? It was all like external. And so I was kind of like in a low vibrating place in general. And then I got a knock on my door from my neighbor who I hadn't really met. I met her like once or twice, and she was going through a heartbreak. And I had this moment with her where she told me about her heartbreak, and she was more comfortable telling me than her own friends and family. She was like, I just need to talk to like someone that's not my friends and family. And I was like, oh, why? That's crazy, right? Like, I don't know who you are really. And you can't talk to your mom about this. And she was like, yeah, my mom's going to tell me to move on, or that I'm so much better. And it really sunk into me that this concept of how we're more willing to tell strangers how we actually feel about something is so real, and how that there's such safety in that, in being able to say whatever it is you want, and not feel like you have to defend yourself or and it's unfortunate because our friends and family love us. They're not doing it because they don't love us, but sometimes it's not the right thing to hear in that moment. And so I remember that moment. And a couple months later, I was dating someone, and, it was very like, are we together? Are we not together? And it was that anxiety for like 6 months. And then I got blindsided and it ended. And I was so I fell into an acute depression, and I started going to therapy, and therapy costs a lot of money. Therapy is like $175, $200 a session. And I was like, I don't know a lot of people that have $800 a month to feel better, like to go every week. And I couldn't go every week. And so it was born out of my own heartbreak because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was having nightmares. And I was like, whoa, this is really mentally consuming. It's kind of wild that if at least, and I can only speak for the United States, but it's kind of wild that here in the United States, if I'm physically sick, I can go to the doctor, go to the hospital, get a doctor's note. I can call my job and I can tell them, hey, I'm not feeling well. And they'll say, oh, okay, take a couple of days off. I have a doctor's note. But if you're dealing with mental or overwhelming distress, which by the way, is the official definition of heartbreak. A lot of people, when we think of the word heartbreak, and I'm really trying to break the stigma, we think of a girl in bed crying over a guy, eating candy, eating ice cream, but that is not what heartbreak is. The actual definition, if you Google it, is overwhelming distress. Anything can cause overwhelming distress. Racial injustice, a miscarriage, losing your dog, being in a fight with your friend, the loss of a family member, a job, a dream, any of these things can cause heartbreak. The list goes on and on. And so I thought to myself, if any of those things happen, like if you have a miscarriage or your dog dies, we just expect people to wake up the next day and resume life.
Yeah, just move on.
And why is there no doctor's note for that? And then I would do research because I was like, this is so painful. And I discovered that the same part of your brain that lights up when you're going through physical pain is the same part of your brain that lights up when you're going through emotional pain. So I was like, oh, wow. So feeling heartbreak can literally feel like someone punching you in the gut. People die of heartbreak. It's called broken heart syndrome. And how is there nowhere to go if you can't afford like therapy to feel better? And so I started to think, wouldn't it be cool if there were a bunch of strangers around that could talk to each other, remind themselves they're not alone, and sort of just talk about heartbreak in a free, safe space. And so that's where the idea of Heartbroken Anonymous came to be. It's not a 12-step program like AA, or, it's not, I'm not really in the business of fixing your heartbreak. I'm in the relief business. And so I have found that when you come and you sit in a circle, there's no crosstalk, or we're doing them on Zoom too now since the pandemic. So anyone from the world can join. We do 2 meetings a month, 1 in person in LA and 2 virtual meetings. And you can just come and listen if you want. You don't even have to share, or you come and you can share, you can remind yourself you're not alone. Because sometimes when we're experiencing heartbreak, we feel like it's happening to us. We can't see anything else. And so, I mean, I could go on and on and on, which I don't want to do because I want this to be a conversation. And a lot of it is, it's a script in my head at this point, because I've talked about it so much, but it's a genuine thing that I really feel and believe in. And I've been doing it since May of 2017. And hundreds of people have come and have felt better. And I think if I can help people feel better for an hour, then that to me makes all the difference.
Yes, I believe so too. I know from watching the videos that I found online on YouTube, for example, like listen to the testimonies of people. It's really helped a lot of people who have gone through maybe heartbreak from loved ones, for example, or from uncle passing away. I watched one of a guy that his uncle passed away, or maybe, someone that you went on a date with before, and you are open that, or you are going out together with like your story, and you believe that, this person should end up to be my wife or my husband or something, but it's, went the other way around, and that could cause heartbreak also. So it was so educative for me. I would advise everyone out there to visit the website and at brokenanonymous.com, and just watch the videos just to know how it feels like. And also, if you are available on Zoom, you could join the meetings sometime and twice a month. And also, if you're in LA or in the US and you can have the time to visit and just, listen to people's story, listen to how people are vulnerable, and just, be relatable with them. That's going to be lovely. It's a wonderful experience, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. And we're having a meeting on Valentine's Day, and we typically do meetings close to holidays or on holidays because that can also be a very triggering day for people.
Yeah.
It could be your first Christmas without your mother. It could be a Valentine's Day since you've gotten divorced, or you're going through a breakup, or you're still in a relationship and you feel alone. So yeah, just want to let people know that we have a meeting on Valentine's Day coming up.
Valentine's Day. Yeah, that's going to be beautiful. Like, just to have a community of people that you could surround yourself with at that moment of life. Yes. And I found something fascinating when I was reading your interview that you had with Forbes.com. I think you were interviewed by Rebecca Bastian. And you got to a point where she asked you a question, and you said you are grateful about your first real breakup, or your first real heartbreak. And I was like, wow. What made you grateful about it? Like, how did this breakup influence your life in order to make you so grateful about it right now?
Yeah, thank you for that beautiful question. I love it. And it took me a long time to not feel hatred or anger or angst or disdain towards someone that broke my heart. And this was back in 2017. And I didn't realize at the time, after having done a lot of inner work, that I really didn't love myself. And I was like depending on someone else for my happiness. But to answer your question in a different way, I am so grateful for that heartbreak, because had I never experienced that, I would have never started Heartbroken Anonymous. And I think what we tend to forget when it comes to heartbreak is that heartbreak breaks your heart open. Yeah. And it's a beautiful way to come into loving yourself again. And it really is like you just learn how to love yourself even more, or you love what you had, and you learn I'm speaking in romantic relationship terms. Yes. You love what you had, but you're grateful for the experience because maybe it taught you something that you don't want or that you do want in the future. It's always just adding to the richness and experience of your life and what is to come around the corner. Yeah. And one of the requirements for membership in Heartbroken Anonymous, and actually the only requirement, is to have hope. And so hope is a faith that good can be derived from painful situations and lead to personal growth. And so I truly believe that we can grow ourselves and learn to love ourselves through heartbreak. Yes. And I think that's sort of the beautiful, crazy side of it, where months later, years later, you're like, oh, wow, if that never happened, this would have never happened, or I would have never been like this, or I would have never realized this about myself. And my heartbreak, aside from starting Heartbroken Anonymous, the reason why I'm so grateful for it is because I became conscious and aware that I was playing victim my whole life. I just wasn't conscious. I wasn't responsible of my own feelings and the role I was playing in my own life. Yes. And that heartbreak really led me on a journey to learn why I like emotionally unavailable people. Why am I attracting these type of people into my life? Yeah. At a certain point, I had to wake up to the fact that a lot of it was me. And all these like underlying beliefs I had, maybe of unworthiness, maybe I didn't, or maybe I still don't think that I'm worthy of like this great love, and yes. And if it wasn't, I'm just so grateful for that first heartbreak, because it got me on my path of self-discovery.
Well, that's the positive side of it, that maybe we've failed to realize, or we realize later on in life. Like, basically, when we experience something bad in life from experience, whenever we experience something bad in life, it gives us that opportunity to grow, like you said. Like, it opens our eyes to see things that we have never seen before in our lives, or to know ourselves in a way we have never known before in our basically. And it could be very painful, it could be very heartbreaking, but it opens a window or a door. Like, I read something like, when you crack a heart or something like that, it opens a hole in which allows light to pass through it, or something, to to illuminate your heart and illuminate the inner parts. But that breaking of the hole, or creating of the hole in your heart could cause pain, cause cry, but you allow light to flow through it, and you become a much better person after the miserable experience, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard. It's painful, man. And
yeah,
that's why I want people to know there's a space they can go to help
yeah,
them. And it's not instead of therapy, it's just in addition. It's just another resource where you can go and talk to people who are going through what you're going through or feeling what you're feeling. Even if it's not, even if you're going through a divorce and someone lost their dog, it's like it's still a shared sort of pain of heartbreak that that person can understand,
yes,
the loss of something. And you're absolutely right. I love what you said about the window. It really is just a step forward. It
yes.
really is.
Yeah, so I have a question towards concerning HBA also. Like, for people out there who are very interested that would love to, join, do they just have to go to your website, then just sign up, and they will get the link to the Zoom meeting or the venue for the next meeting, or how does it go?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So our meetings are always on Thursdays, unless of course they're on like Monday, like a Valentine's Day. But our meetings are Thursdays, our virtual ones at least, on Zoom. And signups for the meetings open the Sunday before. So if you go to our website, heartbrokenanonymous.com, at the top of our website, you can sign up for our newsletter. And I highly recommend signing up for the newsletter. And every Sunday, you'll get an email telling you when the meeting opens or when the signups are open for that Thursday.
Yeah.
But they're always on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. But of course, the goal is to grow Heartbroken Anonymous to be a thing all around the world, so people in different time zones, because I know right now for you, it's like crazy late. It would be cool to, I am working on expanding and getting more ambassadors to host different meetings. But yeah, currently right now it's in person in LA, which I'm trying to build again, which is tough because since the pandemic,
Yes.
a lot of people just want to come on Zoom, which is great. It's great to have both,
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. So I'm going to place this question like this. So I have an imaginary friend. I have a friend, and this friend is a very shy person, but he or she wants to, speak to a stranger, like with HBA, for example, but does not want to sit in a group. Do you have that kind of service also to, have one-on-one or smaller circles to just speak? Because some people are very, very shy in big circles, and they feel like they don't feel in their element to, or they don't feel the comfort to be able to speak or open up in big circles. But maybe when there are two people or just one person, you have that kind of service for people like that?
I love that question. I don't currently, but that's a great thing to start thinking about. What's really amazing about the Zoom format, Toby, is that now it's even more anonymous, where you can not put your camera on. You could change your name in the Zoom if you wanted.
Yes.
And you don't have to share. So sharing is encouraged, but it's not required. And so sometimes a lot of people come to a meeting first, they'll just listen. And maybe they'll come back to another meeting and then feel like they'd like to share. But what's really interesting is that a lot of people come to the meeting thinking that they're not going to share. And then what you'll realize is once one person opens up, it kind of like, you kind of want to share too. It feels good. It feels good to be able to just say whatever you want. Like people come to meetings. I'll never forget, a woman came to a meeting and she was like, my fiance broke up with me, and my husband like ended things with me. No one in my life knows that we were married, because everyone told me that he just wanted a green card. And I married him anyway, didn't tell anyone in my life. And it turns out that it was kind of true. And now I'm grieving. Like, she's so sad every day. Can you imagine not being able to just be who you are and feel what you feel in your life? And so she's like, this is the only place I can come and just say that. And just say, like, I'm so sad. I lost this person. I'm dealing with this grief. That's just one example, but there's many, there's people that are in affairs with people that are married, and that can be really painful too.
Yes.
There's people that have come that aren't over people that they dated 25 years ago, and they're embarrassed or they feel ashamed to say that to their friends and family. And in my eyes, there's no algorithm to a breakup.
That's
Like
true.
if you're sad, you're sad. You should be able to say it out loud. And
Yes.
like how silly that we live in a world and society where sometimes we can't even feel our feelings, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or be honest with our feelings. And so creating a space where you could just come and say whatever you want. A lot of the time people think they don't want to share, or maybe they're too scared to share. And of course you never have to share, but it,
Yeah.
it is, it is such a safe space that you may come and feel inclined to share.
Yes. A place where you could just come and share whatever you want to share without being judged or having that fear of being, judged or labeled as something bad or something. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So apart from now I know about HPA, now I know about Heartbroken Anonymous. Are there like some other helpful, useful methods of getting through or recovering from heartbreaks out there? How can I, let go of those feelings and feel free again and be able to live life without having to be hurt or sad or disappointed?
Yeah. So what's interesting about your question is I want to say first and foremost, I'm not someone that I don't like to give advice only because Heartbroken Anonymous isn't a space where you're going to get advice. I found that like sometimes people just want to say what they want, but I obviously do want people to heal on their own and do what's best for them.
Yeah.
So I'm only answering this question personally as Naz and like what's worked for me,
Yes.
not as like the founder of Heartbroken Anonymous. But
Yeah.
for me, like, I don't know, when it comes to dealing with heartbreak, I think one, surround yourself with people or like come to groups and I think radical acceptance is a big part of heartbreak. I think accepting it, right? And sitting
Yes.
with it and actually not trying to avoid it. I'm so anti like, how do you get over it quick? And, like all this stuff. And I say, don't. I say, feel it. Because if life was happy all the time, it would be boring. And it's that variety. It's this sadness that shows you what you do want.
That's true.
It's necessary to the human experience to feel these things so that you can grow or know what you do want. It's a guidance. It's like that angst is going to guide you, I think, to your next destination, wherever that is.
That's
and
true.
so I don't like to ignore it. I love feeling feelings. I love crying. I love the human experience, and I love being sad because being sad enables me to be really happy other days, and knowing what it is. So I think but I think obviously, getting out there and going on walks and moving your body and surrounding yourself with people going through the same thing and just giving yourself grace and allowing yourself time to grieve. So many people come and they're like, oh, I'm so mad. Me and him broke up 6 months ago and I cried yesterday. And it's just, remember that healing is not linear.
That's true.
Healing is like, it's zigzag, and that's okay. And you judging yourself and shaming yourself for crying a year or 20 years later, I think makes it worse.
That's true. That's very
and
true.
I thank my body. If I cry, I'm like, oh, thank you for telling me that I'm still sad about this. That's really good information. What does that mean? Maybe that means that I really want love right now. I don't know. This is me speaking in hypothetical.
Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful. And I remember hearing this quote on this show called WandaVision on Disney Plus, because I love Marvel. And Vision, who's a superhero, says this quote to Wanda because she's grieving the loss of him. And he says, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And so I love that line because it really just is love.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when you miss something, I think what you're really missing is alignment with yourself. Like I would use an excuse. I don't know. Let's say like I really wanted this guy to like me because I love loving and I love giving love. And if that guy isn't liking me, then I can't give love, right? But you can, right? I'm just using that person as an excuse to be love, to be in alignment with who I am. I can be love every day I wake up.
That's true.
So I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent now.
Yeah, but I understand that. That's very valid. Like I could also, I can relate with that in some sense. In regards to, for example, grieving, for example, or telling yourself, oh, I give myself one week to, recover from this outbreak, for example, and I should bounce back on my feet and forget about the experience, or do activities just to how I say, distract yourself from those feelings. But that does not work most of the time. Most of the times you find yourself back, in that position, thinking about the situation that happened, or the condition, or the circumstance that one is trying to avoid, basically, in life. So like you said, it's totally correct. Like, it's better for you to sit down and just leave that feeling, and just allow it, process it, actually, and accept it for what it is, and see how you could grow from it. And maybe if it's something that is bad, how you could avoid it in the future, how you could become a better person out of it, and avoid it totally in life, I believe.
Yeah, but I love what you said, processing it. It's like, turn it into art.
Yeah.
Write a song, write a poem, write a letter that you never send.
Yes.
Like, it's process it, so that and again, I'm speaking just of romantic love, but this could be anything. But when that next person comes down the line, you're closer to being healed and being open.
Yes.
A big thing that happens to people going through heartbreak is your heart closes, and you can feel your heart closing. Your heart's an instrument. You can feel it closing when someone's around and they kind of like you, but you don't know if you're ready yet, But if you process it, you may be more open to allowing more love in later on,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So if someone approaches you now and asks, Naz, okay, I'm ready to process my feelings now. I'm ready to open up. I'm ready to be vulnerable, to speak with other people about it. But I'm not sure how a support group can help me heal my broken heart. What would you tell that person?
Yeah. Well, I would say you're absolutely right. I am not in the healing business. I am in the relief business,
Yeah.
I am here to or not me, Heartbroken Anonymous is here to give you a space to grieve, to just feel it all, and to not feel ashamed about feeling it.
Yes.
Because that's something we all do, which makes no sense. Like, I shouldn't, and I do it all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, or like, you dated someone and they met and you're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And it's like, what about just being sad about it?
Yeah.
Now, on top of being sad, you're embarrassed about being sad. So I would just say, we're just here to help you process. I'm not here to tell you what to do or give you advice, but maybe you can meet someone or a friend that can help you get through it, and remind you that you're not alone. Because I say this all the time, we're in a loneliness epidemic. People are lonely. The UK administered a minister of loneliness. 1 in 4 Americans live alone. And it doesn't mean that because you live alone, you're lonely, but I don't think people are talking about loneliness enough. And I think behind addiction and violence and heartbreak is loneliness.
That's true. Yes.
And so we don't have real community anymore, which is why I'm just letting people know this is a community you can go to when you're feeling overwhelming distress.
Yes.
You don't have to do it alone.
That's true. Exactly. We don't have to do it alone. We're not alone, basically. And you mentioned loneliness, brought this question into my mind. Like, it's currently a pandemic going on, and a lot of people just feel heartbroken by the way, with the way things are going on right now, like maybe with the government, or just because there's a pandemic, basically, and we have to sit at home most of the time, and you just feel heartbroken, sad, disappointed about it. So for people going through this kind of, process or heartbrokenness, how can they heal from it? How can they recover from something that's ongoing currently and is making them sad every day they wake up? Like, they wake up every morning and they're like, heartbroken. Oh my God, this is
yeah.
When
you find out the answer, please call me and tell me. Because I'll tell you, as somebody who lives alone, who is single, and I was most of the pandemic, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I had never felt so alone in my entire life. I couldn't fly and see my family. Some of my family had different political views than me. They thought about the pandemic differently. I felt isolated from them. I couldn't see friends. Some of my friends have autoimmune diseases. So, I couldn't even risk getting close to them.
That's true.
And it's horrible. It's horrible. There's so many people out there right now that are alone in isolation. And it was already it was already bad enough to go through heartbreak, but to now have to go through it isolated and alone is compounding, which is why I went virtual with Heartbroken Anonymous. But in retrospect, I think what I'm hearing from, and this isn't a statistic, but from what I've witnessed and what people have said out loud and what I've observed in meetings, is that now because of the pandemic, people are facing their heartbreak head on, when I guess in the past or pre-COVID-19, they would just distract themselves and maybe process it months later.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's always a silver lining, and maybe that's it. I don't know. But yeah, when you get the answer, let me know, because it is extremely lonely and isolating. And I think the first step is just admitting you're lonely and not being ashamed about it.
That's true. Yeah.
Not going to be embarrassed to say I'm lonely.
No.
And I think we need to stop acting like loneliness is a virus.
It's not. No, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, because people don't want to go near people that are lonely.
Yes.
Or admit they're lonely. And that's part of the problem too. And so you can come to Heartbroken Anonymous. It is an lonely club.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you just join a community and you have people that you're relatable to, and you could just speak with them and just feel at home and alive, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it ever possible for us to prevent or protect ourselves from heartbreaks?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's built into the human experience and condition. And not to get too existential, but I think life needs that variety, so you can pick preferences. I don't know. I think if we were all happy, right, and there was never any heartbreak, or we never got sad, I think everybody would be really bored.
That's true. Yes.
I don't know. I think it's just a card we're all dealt with. I don't think, well, number one, no one gets out alive, and no one does not experience not heartbreak.
That's true. Yeah.
My own words. No one escapes it. Everyone has felt rejection. So yeah, it's a matter of figuring out, what are you learning from it?
That's true.
Or are you letting it hold you back?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's a very valid point. Like, I know sometimes it could hold you back. Like, the fear of being heartbroken could hold you back from taking a step or action, basically. Like, sometimes you want, maybe let's make it romantic. Sometimes you want to go out on a date, or you are looking at someone and you're interested in, and you are just having a fear of approaching the person, or you don't want to go out on a date with the person because you might think it might end after this first date or second date, and you'll be heartbroken afterwards. Then you decide to cancel the date, basically. That's a fear of being heartbroken. Then you just let it go. But then later you see this person with a different person, and you feel heartbroken because you didn't go out on a date with that person initially. Like, there's no way you can avoid the heartbreak there, basically.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, dating's hard.
Yeah, that's true.
It can also be amazing, and it can be fun, and it's all about your perspective and energy, right? And it's about, just like you said, being open.
Yeah, that's true.
I was reading this book called The Untethered Soul, which I haven't finished yet, but it's by Michael A. Singer, I believe. And I think everyone in the world should read this book. And it is incredible because he talks about what I was alluding to earlier, is that the heart is an instrument. But unlike other instruments, like musical instruments in life that we hear, you can feel the heart. You can feel the heart. And so he talks about how, let's say you're on a date. He doesn't say this, but when someone says something that you don't like, because you can feel it closing, and I remember being on a date with someone, and they said something where I was like, oh, I don't think I want that in my future person, right? Like my brain. And I noticed my heart closing. And I think we should be more aware of that. We should be more aware of when we close our hearts, and maybe we should keep it open more.
Yeah, we should be more open-minded.
Yeah. And it's not about avoiding heartbreak because it's going to happen. It's about being okay with that being a part of life.
That's true.
right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
For
just
sure.
continuing to love ourselves and find, what it is we're meant to learn about ourselves and about love.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's scary. It's scary. So many people, I'm not, I hope I'm not coming off holier than thou. I'm speaking as someone who's been single almost all my life. I'm turning 32 soon. And yeah, like it's scary getting rejected. It's the worst. But then when I think about it, I'm like, oh, it's so silly. I'm scared to have this conversation. I'm scared to ask for clarity. I'm scared to go on this date, all because I just don't want to feel rejected.
Hmm.
It's just a feeling.
That's true. Exactly.
Right? Like
Yeah.
we are holding ourselves back from figuring out so much, or discovering, or not going for the thing that we want, whether
Hmm.
it's a person or a job,
Yeah.
just because we're scared of a feeling.
Hmm. That's true.
But what if we welcomed rejection? What if we were like, hey, rejection, come to the table. It's okay. Like, you're a part of all these other emotions, like happiness, like,
Yeah.
and we can feel all them at different times, and it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that we open ourselves up to more opportunities, basically, to bigger things, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cause at the end of the day, we're all just pure love. I believe.
Mm, mm. That's
And
true.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So I find it's wonderful also, like you worked on The Bachelor, like you produced The Bachelor for 2 years.
Mhm.
And this show is about love and dating and all that kind of wonderfulness, I would say. Yeah. So did your experience with the show change the way you see and understand the concept of love?
That's a good question. I think it opened my eyes to how people love.
Mm.
Um, and I think I don't want to answer this. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I only say because I know often when people ask just a question, what do you think love is? Or have you ever been in love? And when I think of that first heartbreak that led me to start Heartbroken Anonymous, I remember thinking, oh, that wasn't real love. But then I went back on it and I was like, oh no, that was real love, because that was what I thought love was at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was
Yeah.
what I thought love was to be in that moment.
Mm, mm,
I think I learned how people love and how love motivates people to do certain things. And that to me is fascinating.
mm.
Like, I work for the Dodgers baseball team, and it's fascinating to me to see a person, let's say it's a man who grew up loving the team,
Mm.
and then he married someone and now she's a fan, but
Yes.
she had nothing to do, she didn't grow up with it.
Mm.
That's just love, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's
Now
very
you're
true.
a fan. And so how love motivates us to move across the country
Mm.
or root for a sports team, to me has always been so fascinating.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
but as far as what love is, I think that's different to all of us, right? And
Yeah.
it's dependent on how evolved you are and how much you love yourself.
Mm. But how would you define love in your own word, in your own with your own experience? How would you define love?
I love that question. I think I I think the word that popped up in my head was acceptance,
Mm.
but acceptance sounds kind of harsh. I think it's just like the loving and acceptance and embracing of how things are in the moment and of yourself at all
Yeah.
times. I don't know. That's
Ah.
not a good.
So
I
so
don't know. I think when I fully love myself, no excuses, you know,
mm,
not like, oh, I just love myself when I'm not bloated or when my hair is long.
yeah.
I have nothing to hide, nothing to prove.
Mm,
And I am just accepting and embracing and loving the moment that I'm in
yes.
with myself and who I'm with. I think
Mm.
that is love.
Ah,
I
yeah.
don't I don't think dating someone or being around someone and saying and wanting to change them is love.
Mm,
You know, it's
yes.
just full acceptance of who they are and who you are in a moment. I think.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can see that as really good answer. Yeah, like I can see that as when you say love is just, yeah, like you said, accepting a person for the flaws, for the beauty, for the ugliness, for everything that the person is, but and
All
also
of it.
everything exactly. I think I think that's love. Yeah, accepting just
What do
everything.
you think love? What is love to you?
So for me, I think love is, for example, the ability to give without receiving back, for example, the
Oh, I
ability
think
to
that's it.
serve, for example, without having to get paid for it or being recognized for it, or the ability to, yeah. So basically love is just, it's relative, and it depends on how you see it, basically. So I believe love is like, yeah, just being kind without accepting or without expecting kindness back from anybody, basically just
I
being.
think I like your definition better than mine, and I think you're absolutely spot on.
Mm.
I think it's giving. I think it's being love, right?
Yes,
I
exactly.
think love is what we are.
Mm, yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
If you don't let all the other stuff get in the way.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah. So is it possible for us to know when we've truly fallen in love with somebody? Is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been in a long-term relationship, so
Mm,
I think it's very important for me to be transparent. Not
yes.
that that means that I haven't experienced love.
Mm,
Um, I think, like I was saying before, I think love is what you think it is in
mm,
the
mm.
moment, you know?
Yeah, yes, that's true. Yes.
I
And that,
don't know.
as you said,
What's your answer to that question?
yeah, that's a very big question and a good question. That's why I'm asking you, actually. So, like, I
What
be
are your thoughts on it? I'm wary of people that have all the answers. So I never try and act like I know. It's just what I think,
exactly.
you
Yes,
know?
that I believe that. Yeah, that's why we're having this conversation also, just to learn from each other, basically. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Like when you said, for example, when you said love is acceptance, like I was like, yeah, of course. I can see how love is acceptance also, and that's why, yeah. And when you said, oh, yeah, you're not sure if that's the answer, I'm like, I can see what you mean by love
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
acceptance. Yes. So
Yeah. Totally.
I believe when you say when you say someone has truly fallen in love with someone, I believe it's just when going back to the definition, just accepting the person for who the person is, like not being disgusted by the flaws and everything, still liking the person, or loving the person the same way when person has everything in abundance and when person has nothing. I believe that at that point, or still finding someone attractive when the person is in the worst state ever, basically. Or when person says anything or offends you in a particular way, not find that person appealing at that moment. Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that at that moment you've probably fallen in love with the person or truly
Well,
fallen.
maybe, but now I'm thinking like, now I'm going back because I'm like, well, someone could be accepting of their boss at work, you
Ah,
know, the
yeah.
good and bad parts, but
Mm,
not love them. So
yeah.
I don't know, you know what I mean? It's
Yes,
definitely,
yes.
I think this is why we love talking about it, because love is this nuanced thing and feeling. And I think, to go back to your question, how do you know when you're in love with someone?
Mm,
I think it's like an inner knowing.
mm,
It's like this gut. It's just, you just feel it. And it's this
yeah.
unexplainable thing. And that's why we're all so fascinated by it.
That's true. So it's probably just like a candle that got lit or something that got or a light that just switches on, basically, so I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in love or something.
Yeah. I think when you're aligned and you love yourself, you're just pure love at the core. And I think
Mm,
that's when you're in alignment.
yes, yes, that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just saying this because I'm just asking about this question because, of Valentine's Day, and, a lot of people ask themselves, am I truly in love with this person? Am I truly, what is love actually? That's what I'm basically asking. So that, sometimes to avoid heartbreak, some people would think, yeah, I should truly know if I am truly in love with this person. So before down the line, I break that person's heart or the person breaks my heart, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's hard, man,
Yeah, it is.
because you should be learning from your past, right? We should
Mm,
all, not everyone, but if you're someone who wants to evolve,
yes.
we should be learning from our past. One, easier said than done.
Mm,
But two, we also aren't, I don't know. It's also when you try and control all the chess pieces. I don't
yes.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't control the chess pieces in life, I believe.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard, right?
It could be complex. It could be complicated sometimes.
Yeah.
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 Yes. But
Sometimes you have to fall on your face to know to not do it again.
that's
But if
true.
you continue to fall on your face, at some point you should get up and ask yourself, why do I keep falling on my face?
Mm,
You
true.
know?
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
we just learn from experiences and from lessons of life
Yeah.
or mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was always, I played victim for a long time.
Mm,
It was like, no guy ever wants to be with me.
mm,
You know, no one ever picks me. No one wants me to be their girlfriend.
yeah.
Then at some point I had to say, well, why am I so attracted to people that don't want to be in a long-term relationship? You know,
Mm,
and then you dig and therapy and journaling. You know, it's like, oh, I had an emotionally unavailable parent. And so that feeling feels very familiar to me.
yeah. Ah,
Now
yeah.
that I know that, am I still going to do it?
No.
Maybe it's really hard, but like you have to decide to try not to anymore. And
Yes.
that's really hard.
That's true. Well, once you've realized that, you'll be much more conscious of your decision, I believe. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes,
It's the difference between being conscious and unconscious, I think.
that's true. But still, sometimes
Yeah.
one think, yeah, I'm just going to risk it and just try it again, and just go with the unavailable or with the emotionally unavailable person, basically, and just see how
Yeah.
it goes. Yeah. But
Yeah.
love evokes a lot of things in us. Like, when you fall in love with someone, or when you are with somebody, you have this butterflies in your tummy, and it motivates you to do different things, to be romantic and all that awesome things. Is it possible to also use heartbreaks to motivate us to do positive things also, or to maybe write a song like Taylor Swift or something, or like to do wonderful things, or that other things that could make us proud later in the future?
Yeah. I think what we were saying earlier, like turn it into art, you
Mm,
know, and share with it. And I think that's the way you're able to relate to other people.
yeah,
You
that's true.
know, if you're at work and you have a really tough boss
Mm,
or a tough coworker that you just can't crack,
mm, mm.
you know what that person has in common with you? They've felt heartbreak before. They have been
Ah,
rejected. And so
yes.
remembering that that's something we all share,
Mm,
and that heartbreak that you had could bring you closer to someone else, you know?
that's true. That's true.
It could be a
Yes.
way, it's a way to connect and commiserate and relate.
Yeah. Wow. It has been so awesome, learning about heartbreak and love with you. I love the fact that we were able to, analyze love a little bit. That was so beautiful. Like, open my eyes a little bit to see other part and aspect of love also, and to realize that, yeah, it has a lot of definition. Love has different sides to it, basically.
Yeah. And I love your question because I think I'm going to think about it forever and always. How do I define love? What is love? And I think
Mm,
what's so beautiful is that could change for me tomorrow.
yeah,
And
that's true.
if we sat down a year from now, we could be like, oh, we didn't know what we were talking about then.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is what I love it. And that's what's so beautiful is that it's so personal.
Yes.
You
You
know?
could wake me up tomorrow morning and I'll tell you something entirely different. Like, oh, love is
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
exactly.
But among all the awesome things that you do, you co-host I Don't Get It podcast, where you talk about relationships, you talk about men, you talk about sex, you talk about a lot of things. Can you tell me more about this podcast of yours, and what should listeners look forward to?
Yeah, of course. So my friend Ashley Iconetti and her sister Lauren Iconetti were on The Bachelor, and
Mm,
that was the show that I produced on.
yes.
And when we both weren't working on the show or on the show,
Mm,
Ashley and I became really close, and neither of us had had a boyfriend.
mm,
And we were like, when did we start it? We're like 27 or 28 or 29.
yeah.
And we were someone approached her to do a podcast, and they were like, well, you have to come up with a name, and what do you want to call it, and what do you want it to be about? And she asked me to co-host it with her. And I was like, well, every day we're in the car and we're just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, we're just always saying, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And we did our first episode on how we don't get how girls get boyfriends, because we were 27 or 28. We hadn't had luck. And we released the episode and it gets like 11 on iTunes.
Wow.
And we got so many messages from people around the country who also were in our age bracket, who had also never had a boyfriend before. And so that's how I Don't Get It was born. But we talk about so many things we don't get. But not in a way of like where we're experts, where we bring people on just to sort of like understand or, you know, whatever it is, or otherwise it's just us three complaining about things like, you know, airplane stuff. This doesn't make sense at the airport. We don't get it. So yeah, you can, so it's me, Ashley, and Lauren. We've been doing it for 4 years now, which is crazy. Yeah. We were doing it before I think people really got into podcasts, or at least like months or a year before. But you can follow it anywhere where you can download podcasts like Spotify, Apple, but it's called I Don't Get It.
Yes, please. I will encourage everyone to listen to it. I'm going to place also the link in the show notes. It's also on your website, nazperez.com. There's a tab and there's a tab or a page for the podcast also. And it's a very relatable, you know, easy, wonderful conversations between three ladies. Sometimes you have guests also with you and you just talk. You have a solo episode also. Like, it's just like a very wonderful podcast to listen to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
So what advice would you give someone out there who is, you know, currently heartbroken, who is expressing so much emotional pain and does not see any way forward, does not see any, you know, light at the end of the tunnel, basically?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a normal part of it, right? Where there's a part of it where, I mean, at least speaking personally, I was just like, how can I go on?
Yeah.
That was me resisting, you know, and I think it's okay to be in that space for a little, right? Not forever, but like, oh, I don't like my life this way. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I wanted it to be another way. And they were part of my plan and like feel that, but you don't have to be in it forever. And my advice would be to come to Heartbroken Anonymous and hear other people's stories, to remind yourself you're not alone and give yourself a different perspective, and remind yourself to have hope. Like I said, which is the faith that good can be derived from painful situations and lead to personal growth. I think the greatest quote I ever read was in this book called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. And I love this line so much. And it was, success eliminates as many options as failure. Success eliminates as many options as failure. And so I try and apply that to when I'm not dating someone I want to date, or when I don't get a job I want. I'm like, oh, if I would have dated that guy, or if I would have gotten that job, what I'm not realizing is that would eliminate a million other options that I don't even know about yet.
That's true. Yes.
You know,
that's true.
What if there was someone more amazing around the corner? What if I would have got a 10 times better job with a bigger salary? And so we don't remember that. Sometimes we think the things we want, success, is like, oh, it worked out the way we wanted it to, which is fine. But I think just remember, success, getting what you want, eliminates as many options as failure does.
Failure. Yes. Wow. That's a very wonderful closing note. And I'm going to also going to think about this also, like success eliminates as many possible options as failure. Yes. And also, like what you said before, that is very wonderful too. Like hope, we have to have that hope, that, or that faith also, that this phase of life that we are in, that is not so conducive, won't last forever. We'll be out of it by the time we sit down with the thoughts, by the time we process it, accept it, and, you know, we come out of it as a better person. Before we know it, it's behind us. This dark moment is not forever.
Yeah. And can we approach life with a playful curiosity? And I love I'll leave you with the word wonder. I love the word wonder because I'm always like, I wonder what's going to happen next, you know? And when you come at life from that place of playful curiosity, it gets a lot more fun.
Yes. Just be playful and curious about life. Yeah.
And life's supposed to be fun.
True. That's very true.
You know?
Yes.
It can be fun if you want it to be.
That's very true. Wow. This is so wonderful. I said Perez. So wonderful, Naz. Thank you so much. I was calling by your last name.
How do you pronounce your last name, Toby?
My last name is from Nigeria. It is pronounced Ojekule. like
Ojekole.
yes, Ojekole. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Ojekole. Toby
Yes.
Ojekole. And what
Exactly.
language does your family speak in Nigeria?
So officially we speak English, like the
English, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But we have like different Nigeria's over 500 different languages, basically.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yes. But my own mother's language or mother language is Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Yeah, Yoruba, exactly. Yes.
Cool. That's super
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you so much.
How do
So
you say goodbye in Yoruba?
Odabo, we say Odabo.
Odabo.
Odabo, yes. But before I say Odabo, I'm sure someone is out there who would like to, connect with you, maybe work more
Yeah.
with you. What's the best way to do this?
Totally. So if you want to come to a Heartbroken Anonymous meeting, go to heartbrokenanonymous.com, sign up for our newsletter at the top of the website. If you have questions about Heartbroken Anonymous, shoot me an email at info@heartbrokenanonymous.com or follow us on Instagram at heartbroken_anonymous. And you can message me there, or you can message me on my personal Instagram. I'd love to hear what you thought about this conversation or this podcast at Naz Perez. So it's at NAZPEREZ on Instagram.
Awesome. I'm going to place all of this information in the show notes of this episode also for everyone to just easily click on it or just copy it. Thank you so much, Naz. I really appreciate this wonderful conversation I had with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Toby. Adabo.
Odabo. Yeah. Odabo.
So, thank you for having me. This is wonderful. Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.